gente está realizando nosso primeiro evento presencial aqui no consulado, nessa gestão, então a gente está muito feliz de estar aqui. Obrigado. Leslie, thank you so much for being here. We're just making some remarks. Eu queria agradecer primeiro ao Consulado do Brasil em Toronto, à embaixadora Vanja Campos da Nóbrega, a nossa cônsul geral, que cede esse espaço para o CONCID para a gente ter esses eventos presenciais. É importantíssimo a gente ter o consulado como apoiador, porque nós não temos dinheiro para ficar alugando sala para evento em Toronto, que é caríssimo, então a gente precisa do apoio de todo mundo, né, Cíntia? Das pessoas que doaram as comidas, bebidas e tudo mais. Então, e é importante falar que o CONCID é um fórum informal, apartidário, de aconselhamento dos consulados no mundo. Então, a nossa função como voluntário é trazer os problemas da comunidade brasileira para a rede consular e levar as iniciativas da rede consular para a comunidade brasileira e criar esse diálogo entre a comunidade e o Estado brasileiro. Nós não somos funcionários do consulado ou do governo brasileiro, a gente não ganha nada com isso, nós somos voluntários. Como todos vocês que estão aqui do Brains também, vocês são voluntários, é super importante, eu acho que ter esse momento de voluntariado e a gente ensinar a nossa comunidade cada vez mais a se voluntariar, né? que é muito importante. Então eu queria dar boas-vindas a vocês. A gente vai deixar vocês fazer o evento agora em paz. Acho que a Cíntia vai agradecer os
Sim, eu queria também agradecer todo mundo que está aqui. Tem alguém aqui que não sabe o que é o Brains? Não? Então, o Brains é uma comunidade de brasileiros que nós somos há mais de 600. E a gente organiza também eventos, mas o nosso objetivo é ajudar as pessoas de marketing e comunicação, os brasileiros que se mudaram para o Canadá para trabalhar ou estudar. E aí é um grupo e entre os membros eles se ajudam trocando, tipo, minha empresa está contratando, posso te indicar? Ou referências, ou às vezes você não sabe quem faz uma camiseta ou um banner. Então, se vocês conhecem alguém de marketing que é brasileiro, pode entrar em contato comigo. Meu nome é Cíntia Alcântara, não sei se eu me apresentei. Aí hoje eu só quero apresentar as meninas do Brains, que é elas que organizaram o evento hoje. That's Quebec. That's Quebec. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're never going to live that one down. I think there are even poutine chips now, if I'm not mistaken, like Lay's. Yeah, exactly. Anything else that's Canadian? Maple. Maple everything. Yeah, maple. Nanaimo bars. Yes, exactly. Yeah, you got it.
Tim Hortons.
I hate to tell you this, but Tim Hortons is Brazilian. Yeah. Thank you, 3G. And Restaurant Brands International. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, it hasn't been, it's interesting. Tim Hortons is an iconic brand. Yeah, all of you are mostly marketing, right? Iconic brand. Isn't it interesting that Tim Hortons first was purchased by Wendy's, right? Way back in 2006 or so, and then went to Restaurant Brands. So it hasn't been Canadian in like over a decade, right? But it still remains very Canadian, right? What is it about Tim Hortons that you think makes it Canadian? Is there something that you, like, because it's just not, what is it about it that you say, oh my God, that's Canada?
They are everywhere.
Yeah.
Maple,
the name,
the brand.
The brand, yeah. Wait, what is it about the branding? Yeah, the maple leaf, the colors. Yeah.
Somehow it's so different than Starbucks.
Yeah.
That you're like, it's not Starbucks.
We actually have food.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. Even though what's interesting with Tim Hortons, right, is they're changing a bit, right? They're becoming like the executives. So all the Canadian executives were fired. Over a course of a year. Why am I laughing? That's not funny. But really, it's painful. It's painful, right? They were fired within a few years after being taken over. The jet was sold. They had a corporate jet. So the corporate headquarters was in Oakville. The corporate jet was sold, right? A very small percentage of Canadians go abroad, right? I remember the statistic back in the early 2000s. Do you know that less than 3%, 3 to 5% of Canadians actually went beyond Mexico, Cuba, Florida? Okay? Well, I know that's some sarcastic. No, that's Mexico. Yeah, exactly. Okay?
Yeah, really, that was their primary focus, right? Now they're going, abroad. Okay, maybe South Korea to teach English, as well as Taiwan, right? Okay, yeah, and maybe Japan, right? So that's it. You have come all the way here, and you are slowly but surely developing this beautiful self-awareness in your Brazilian self and in your Canadian self, and that's what you need to tap into. So navigating the Canadian culture, first and foremost, is about who am I? Who am I, right? What are my superpowers? And what are my blind spots? I don't like the word weakness. Weakness, no, don't use it. Don't use it. I'm just gonna go over them. Directing, discussing, and delegating, right? Canadians, the Canadians' favorite one is discussing, right? Discussing. And then a little bit of delegating, right? Right? Now the delegating shows up very interestingly, and this is the lack of cultural awareness from the Canadians. You get a job here, your first job, and then the Canadian will just delegate to you. Okay, so here's the file, right? Okay, the client's coming in and wants the deck prepared by 10 o'clock Friday morning. Okay, this is the budget for this campaign, right? Do it, and I'll see you on Thursday. If you have any problems, I'm at the gym. And but anyways, that's a trap, right? That's a trap. If you have any problems, contact me. No, don't do it, right? Don't do it. Because if you ask too many questions, right? Again, as an indirect culture, Canadians don't like too many questions. Too much, too fast, too soon. Again, right? We say too much, too fast, too soon. Canadians, I hire you. The first couple of days I train you. Hopefully you have an onboarding process, right? Right? Yeah, exactly. The onboarding process has gone down the toilet since the pandemic. So your first job, right, is going to be a job that you're going to make mistakes on. That's okay. That's okay. But if you do lose that job, it's going to be because you've made a cultural mistake, not a technical mistake. Got it.
What's wrong with that?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it's about transparency, right? Okay. So the Canadian culture is not that transparent. You can go all the way up to the government, right? So we're not a transparent culture at all. So one thing is we have to understand that we are an indirect culture in terms of communication. So first of all, we'll start there, okay? So ask me the time. I do this all the time. It's a test, right? Ask me the time. Go ahead. Yeah? Don't be shy. Ask me the time.
What time is it?
Perfect. What time is it? What time is it? Right? And we know each other, right? So yeah, so this is very informal. Yeah, what time is it, Leslie? What time is it? Right? So for Canadians, that's American. That's American right there. What time is it? Yeah? That is a little bit too much, too fast, too soon, as I wrote over there. Right? Too much, too fast, too soon. That's my motto. Too much, too fast, too soon. Right? Right? Okay? Too direct. So in indirect culture, ask me the time. Remember, who colonized Canada and stayed with Canada? The British, right? The British. The Americans threw out the British 100 years before we did, right? Okay, we've never actually thrown out the British, right? We're part of the Commonwealth, right? Yeah, okay, come on. Look, the Queen is still on the money, right? The huge debate in Canada right now is, are they going to switch for King Charles, right? That's the huge debate, right? Right. So yeah, so it's very interesting, right? It's very, so the indirect, so ask me for the time in the British way.
Excuse me?
Nice.
Do you mind to tell me the time?
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Would you mind telling me the time? Yeah. Would you mind? Yeah. Anyone else want to try? Yeah. Excuse me. Could you please tell me the time? Or could you tell me the time, please? You see, longer. So
you use the famous I'm sorry.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So there's so many problems with sorry. Okay. It's just yeah. So this is culture. So in order to answer your question, right, we're going to start here, right? You must remember that the Canadian culture is based on the British culture and the Anglo-Saxon way of communicating. That's indirect. So what does that mean? It means that Canadians do not want to hurt your feelings. They don't want to impose their thinking on you. That's the British, right? So they want to give you enough space so that it's your decision whether you're going to tell me the time or not, right? So also, there are different questions for different functions. So for example, if you don't know me, right, and you want me to move this chair for you, you can't ask me, Leslie, like, or you don't even know my name, right? Can you move that chair? Thanks. Whoa. That's direct, and those are fighting words. It's very dangerous because because we are indirect in terms of communication and voice, it means that you can easily offend a Canadian. So how many of you have had a conversation and for some unknown reason, your relationship has changed a bit or shifted and you don't know why with a Canadian board, maybe a colleague at work. Anyone experienced that? Yeah? Oh, lucky you. Oh, not yet. Yeah, you did. Really? Do you remember what you said? No, I'm kidding. Yeah. How did it happen? Did you
Actually, that happened like step by step. The house that I lived 4 years ago.
Okay.
So it happens like day by day. Many things changed. Yeah.
And then it became more distance. Yeah, exactly. Now remember, another thing about Canadians is that because we're an indirect culture, we will never ever tell you that we're upset. So that's another thing about the Canadian culture. Okay, we are non-confrontational because of language. So if we are indirect and we can't say, "Give me that," right? Yeah, exactly. You know we can't even do it with our own culture in the office. I can't say that to a Canadian. If I said, "Yeah, give me that," no. Then what would happen? I would have a complaint lodged at HR. Leslie's bullying me. Yeah, right. Okay, I spent way too many years in Germany, okay, perfecting my coaching. I was doing this in Europe. So my problem is, do I sound like a Canadian to you right now? Probably not. Right? You're probably trying to figure out, right? Was she born here? Is she from Toronto? Yes, I was born downtown. Yeah, I was born in Kensington Market. Yeah, exactly. So I'm from Kensington Market. So yeah, I'm actually, but I spent many years. So do I work with my own culture? No. I have a few Canadian-born clients, that's it. I will not accept my culture as clients, right? I spend most of my time with you, right? Like 85% Brazilian and the rest, right? The rest of the culture. So for me, it's very difficult to communicate with my own culture because they're very overly sensitive, they're passive aggressive. Okay, so there are many things but it all starts with language and with the fact that Canadians are non-confrontational. So we don't like conflict and we don't have the language, the linguistic structures to deal with it. So we're not programmed, right? Okay, so is everyone okay so far? Remember, interrupt me at any point, okay? 8, 10, over 10 years, right? How many of you can say that you're in the acceptance? Those of you who've been here a while, I saw some hands over there. Acceptance stage? Okay, I accept that I'm here, yeah, okay. Adaptation. Anyone beyond acceptance? Anyone? Adaptation? Yeah, adaptation? Adaptation stage? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so, yeah, you will eventually get to integration. You will. I promise you. Yeah, I promise you will. You will. Believe me. I'll do a couple more workshops where you don't get it.
When she was talking about how this feedback about English affects us, I just came back. I was living in Montreal. I moved to here last Sunday. And I'm feeling now so like, I know English. Because there my self-esteem was so bad because everything was about you don't know French, your French is bad. And I studied English for like 5 years. I did a lot to have my English. That doesn't matter. It's French. And then I think now I'm like, okay, my English is not too bad. Nice. I have mistakes, but I'm happy that I have English now. Yeah, I think that's the adaptance.
That's right, exactly.
Outside of Quebec, of course.
Yeah.
There's a lot of English.
I have a rule for me. My English is bad. When I come here, no English, and then especially my family. When I say something wrong, people, not this. Okay, it's not my problem. I talk. If you don't listen what I'm saying, ask me again. It's not my problem. If you don't listen, my English is not perfect. I know, But I try to explain as much as I can. But if you don't understand me, ask a question. Just this. It's my rule. It's give more, for me, more confidence. Because these people, English is different from India, from Canadians, from Brazilian, and then that's why.
And that's good, And I can't, and I'm going to say this, and this is a compliment, is that there is, aging is not all bad. Okay, I'm going to say this, right? The older the brain, the more experience in muscle memory, right? So the more experience, the adaptation level will be a little bit better, okay? So really, trust me. So as you age, that's the bonus, right? Your adaptation, your resilience will increase, right? Because you have more and more, this is neuroscientific. Okay, so this is based on research. Yeah, exactly. But you might, maybe you're going the opposite. I don't know. Yeah, but neuroscientifically, the older, that's why in the workplace, you need all generations, right? You need, so can I just wrap up?
Yes.
Wrap up? Okay. So, this evening, okay, we've talked about a lot of things, and I knew I wouldn't finish. Right? I knew we just scratched the surface. So, as we were saying, right, the one thing that I want to leave you with is right there behind you, right there. Experience is not what happens to you. Experience is how you interpret what happens to you. So every single one of you are going to interpret this moment differently. Who's right? Who's wrong? No one, right? So that's the issue, right? Is some of you will experience acculturation in a vastly different way. It'll be painful, right? Physical, and a lot of physical manifestations of acculturation. Usually stomach issues, back, and neck, okay? But definitely intestinal issues. And higher levels of diabetes in immigrants and newcomers than the host culture. And one more fact, there is more mental illness amongst immigrants and newcomers in Canada than all G7 countries. And some of the G20 as well, okay? So these are some of the things I wanted you to do. So what does this mean? That means that you need to slow things down, and you can start thinking about, how can I build my Canadian self? When am I experiencing cultural interference? If I have a resistance, be gentle with yourself, okay? And remember, Canadians, conservative, they need a lot of space, right? Spatial intelligence. We're afraid of conflict. We're afraid of any kind of confrontation whatsoever. We're very conservative because of this, very slow to make decisions, right? We're very slow to make decisions because we don't want to reach the wrong decision because we're afraid of being wrong, okay? So this is all encapsulating. This is part one. I'm going to talk to you, we have to give part two, right, Sophia? Exactly.
We'll be here.
Yeah, we'll be here, exactly. So, you know, I just want you to remember, right? And take any one you want, okay? But remember, like I started, it's a joy to be hidden and a disaster not to be found. So right now, tomorrow, are you actually setting your boundaries in your Canadian self, and are you being seen? Do you know who you are, how other people see you, and what you want them to see? If you don't know what you want them to see, then maybe the interview is premature. Okay, so think about that. You must answer that question. How do I want to be seen when I walk into that interview? Do that, and you'll be more successful. So I want to thank you so much. It was a real pleasure.